Magnus. Empath. Torturer. Rhapsody. Bubbles. Let's get it on. Touched for the very first time.
And it occurs to me that this entire time my microphone was muted, so that's pretty fantastic right there. And that means that all the intro stuff I did and all the calls I made for the first 2 kills right there were completely unheard by anybody in the entire world. And so I'm apparently incompetent, and the illness has in fact taken over my brain. I was starting to cast off by saying I'm a little sick, so I might cough every so often, but I should be good from a mental capacity and understanding things standpoint. Apparently, I spoke too soon. Forgot to unmute my mic right there. And, well, obviously 2 kills going the way of Dawn on the early going, and I did fix the bracket, or the overlay right there. Dawn is up 1-0 as a result of coming from the winner's bracket here, so they're going to need to take just 2 games in this best of 5, while RmR are going to have to come up with 3 victories if they want to take first place in Gold Cycle 6. Both of these teams, as I said when you couldn't hear me, will be advancing to the Diamond Division for Cycle 7 as a result of their appearance in this match. And there is still something on the line here, obviously seeding for that cycle, which can make a pretty significant difference considering that Sync is, once again, the cycle victors in Cycle 6, and that means that this is going to be facing either Sync or Tree. And Bubble's actually going to survive. I feel like Rhapsody had the auto attack there, but apparently couldn't find it. Don't know why. But Cookie's barely able to get out of there in the bottom lane, and already really, really good start here for Dawn. Is going to be made even better. Obviously, those 2 kills spotting them a pretty significant lead here in terms of golden experience. We're less than 2 minutes in, but obviously just about a 1,500 gold lead is a pretty significant boost. Top lane, Torturer and Empath going at it a little bit. Essence Link is going to keep Torturer, the Empath, up, while the impalement damage is pretty significant, while not available, thanks to Empath not having enough mana for it, but she will be able to retreat onto the top lane, while Kraken, I think, picked up just a refreshment rune. Bottom rune was taken by somebody, maybe a regen, maybe something else, Invis that was broken already. Either way, Haven't looked at the lineups too much because this was a remade game, which means we don't get to look at the drafts or the lineups as much as they are being picked up. But Legion's side going to start off with Kraken into Valkyrie, Swiftblade, Empath, and Rhapsody. So dual support lineup here. Iceland Gogo, typically a jungle player, and he's not the most adept second support, but certainly not unfamiliar with the role and would expect him to have quite a nice time on this second support Empath. It's being dual laned up here with a pretty typical TMM 2-1-2 strategy from Dawn as they try to focus this Imba Pingu Wretched Hag, which we saw a lot of actually before, I think in the previous series or something like that. Pingu playing a really, really good Wretched Hag. Yeah, I believe that was the Losers Bracket Finals. And basically carried his team to victory up against Coolio. So he will be on the hero once again, and his slow start, as we saw in that last series, doesn't necessarily mean that he will have a very poor game, as last time out he got an Alchemist Bones as well as Grimoire of Power and did quite a lot of work on his way to an eventual victory over Coolio. And actually they're going to jump onto the on top of the Empath right here, and yeah, that's going to be a kill on Iceland Gogo, the wall, doing some damage but not too much. Hag now is currently out of mana and she will be taking a counter kill, so Swiftblade, I think, finally just realizing I can spin. I don't need that. Anyway, bottom lane, it's going to be the initiation and the kill onto Cookie's middle. Labyrinth also falling, so let's go back and look at that. Getting caught out by the chain reactions and the impalement, but the stun from Magnus is what finishes off that kill. So stuff happening in all three lanes right there. As on balance, I think that goes in favor of Dawn once again. Trading Empath for Wretched Hag, definitely one they will take. Getting a kill on the Suicide and then losing Labyrinth in the middle lane, a little bit unfortunate, but something that they can probably work with in terms of their long-term game plan. They are somewhat reliant on Kraken right here on this Legion lineup for initiation purposes, but you look at how this team should progress into the late game, and already we're looking at a pretty good lead right there. Empath Essence Link stun will be taken, but Hag not going to take too much more damage from it, while really not doing too much, and Iceland Gogo, I guess, having some issues helping Time to Die kill this Hag, but overall Time to Die at 410 GPM, so I don't think he's complaining too much. And he has 2 kills and 1 assist, so definitely stuff going really, really well for this top lane. Swiftblade Hag will blink away as Swifty gets really aggressive on the tower. A health potion will be given to him along with a mana potion from this Empath, and he should be just fine. As Imba Pingu continues to potentially have some difficulties in this top lane, sitting at sub 250 GPM, which is pretty expected. He should definitely not win this lane, but probably won't be harassed out too much either, considering how difficult it generally is to kill a Wretched Hag, and this is not exactly a great Hag killing lineup in top lane. But it's going to be another kill on Cookies, so let's see how that happens. Arrow right into him in the trees. I don't know how they saw that, but they must have caught a quick glimpse of it, and apparently Cookies unable to react in time. I'm not sure if he could have anyway, because the only thing he could have done is maybe slightly disjointed that arrow with a good shell surf, but that would have meant a quick port, and then there would have been the Rhapsody Staccatos on top of the dance floor, and Cookies probably would have died there anyway. So actually having a really terrible time in this bottom lane, currently sitting at the gold tick, 69 GPM, as the arrow is being faked a little bit, but he's kept the shell surf immediately to the safety of the tower, so he's level 1. And currently I have Yugo back on that Rhapsody at level 2, 123 GPM, so she's basically got double the farm of the Suicide Bubbles, and this bottom lane going massively in favor of Dawn. Pro Boss nearing 500 GPM, and one of the reasons that Dawn are down here in the gold cycle after a 3rd place finish in cycle 4, I believe, is because teams basically figured out, look, let's just address Pro Boss, because bottom lane release Kraken, we'll sort of hit on both heroes. Torture is the one that's caught out, really, and he will die. Yes, the last auto attack goes through the Labyrinth. Bottle charges are being taken up by the Kraken, not going to matter, as Magnus finishes off that kill, and he's actually getting some bottle sips as well. He's going to have a Lava Surge back in about 10 mana, and the mana pot can be cancelled right there, doesn't, or the health pot can be cancelled right there, and they do get a 5-second arrow here on Magnus. Call of Valkyrie going to be necessary. They will get that kill, yes. Q-Zane going to fall, so ends up being a counter kill for Pro Boss, but not before 2 heroes die on the Legion side, and in the end, I'd say that probably favors Dawn once again, considering it was essentially a trade, the difference being that Pro Boss is getting more and more kills, and training on this Valkyrie is going to be more or less impossible as this game goes forward. By the way, Hellborn lineup, haven't talked about it too much, but it's Wretched Hag, Legionnaire, Magnus, Torturer, and Bubbles, so some pretty good magic damage coming out from the Hellborn team. The issue being, of course, once we start to see Shrunken Heads picked up by the Legion, and already with Swiftblade having the spin, it's going to be pretty difficult for them to do damage to these guys. They're going to see a stun right there onto Kraken. Essence Link is there onto the Magmus, though, and so the counter from the Legion side is sufficient to prevent the Hellborn team from getting anything out of that. Legionnaire is hanging out here, taking a health pot and perhaps looking for a follow-up initiation if they can find it. He has been sitting in the jungle, but really not farming all that well at 200 GPM. And if you're Lego, you really want to do a lot better than this, especially because in the Hellborn Woods with uninterrupted farm, and he hasn't ganked at all pretty much, so he has had mostly uninterrupted farm. You should be pushing 400 GPM, and no, that was not a misspoken number. He should be like 350 to 400 GPM. Maybe not this early, but definitely he should be far superior to 200 gold per minute. I mean, at least well over the 300, 350 GPM mark, and they're not really getting that, which is going to be a bit of a problem because the Hellborn definitely do have initiation, so they don't really need him for that so much, but he is more or less their only source of consistent physical damage. The only point at which that's not going to be the case is when Wretched Hag gets significantly built, which is something you can't even necessarily assume will happen, especially considering she did get a little bit addressed in the top lane. Legionnaire and Swiftblade will find each other, and the spin alongside the taunt is going to be there, so slashes are available. We'll see if they're even necessary. Time and I certainly think that they aren't, and they aren't, as he gets the last auto attack to finish off Boz, so still has access to that ultimate, which means that he can perhaps use it to set up a kill in another lane, and I like the conservative play. As the threat of those swift slashes is still pretty daunting if you're the Hellborn team. You realize that if you get caught out between the spin and that ability, then you're going to die. Because even Lego being their tankiest hero, or sorry, Magmus being their tankiest hero, should die to the burst of spin plus swift slashes, unless he can manage to get away from the spin with Lava Surge, which is very possible. So in general, time to die. Yeah. Clearly the bottle for Legionnaire not working out. I like the bottle build too, so I think this is definitely the correct build to go for on a jungle Lego, and we've seen it work very, very well in the hands of players like Zlapt. And again, pretty much everything works well in the hands of Zlapt, so that's not saying all that much. But I don't know if Boz is just unfamiliar with how this build is supposed to go, but 185 GPM is, I mean, to be totally honest, kind of unacceptable. Like, that's not a thing that should happen. And if you're unable to, get more than that amount of farm, then you just shouldn't be playing Jungle Legionnaire because it's not helping his team. I mean, typically with a dual support lineup, you get more early aggression. That helps you win lanes, and it's definitely occurring right here. The only lane that the Hellborn have reasonably lost is mid. And even there, Labyrinth is nearly 300 GPM. He's 280 right now. So any advantage the Hellborn should have gotten from having a jungler, which actually could have meant this game was relatively even, is more or less being taken away by the fact that Boz is just not getting any sort of farm. Which is going to end up being a pretty significant problem, I would guess. So a lot of their eggs are currently in the Magmus and Wretched Hag basket, which, to be honest, are not terrible baskets to put them in. And they have a pretty good amount of early to mid-game team fights, so they could certainly make some stuff happen, even with gold and experience disadvantage here. But it's going to require some pretty good play, the likes of which we haven't seen a ton of at this point. Valkyrie Prism going to be used, but that was well within vision of a lot of Hellborn heroes, so they should know exactly what's going on here. And we're going to see if they can actually get the jump down here. Staccatos are in onto Bubbles, but we're going to see a lot of TP support. Absolutely running behind the tower, trying to save himself. Bubbles to level 5, and not a lot of mana anyway, but we'll try to chase down this Rhapsody who's just like, well, I'm going to port. There's nothing you can do about that, and there's nothing they can do about that. So it'll be a pretty easy getaway right there for Yugovic. Nice play. And the Magma Solution gets killed by Valkyrie in the meantime. So speaking of Pro Boss, once again, 500 GPM, has that Thunderclaw, has had it for some time. And by all rights, his farm should not be decreasing anytime soon. Middle lane, release the Kraken right onto Boz, and that Legionnaire will fall. We'll see if they can actually get a counter kill here. Yep, the Eruption goes through on the Labyrinth, so we'll be to 1-for-1. That's a good trade for the Hellborn team, considering Legionnaire's pretty terrible farm. Magmus eating a bottle charge right there, as Empath is going to try to deny herself to Ancients, but I don't think that's going to happen, yeah. And in fact, this just might end up being a cleanup on Ancients for the Hellborn team. Magmus is kind of trapped, but he's doing a lot of damage to these, and he will get out with the Steam Bath. Torture tanking them a little bit. But they need to be really kind of careful about this. There we go. So at this point, oh god, yeah, they get it. That was living life on the edge right there, but it pushes Magmus to 460 GPM. He has a 12-minute PK, plus a lot more. And actually getting a counter ward right here as well from Torture. So all of a sudden, a number of things going in the favor of the guys on RmR as they look to make this a game. Torture getting chased down by Kraken right here. He's going to have the angle for the charge. No, he's not, as Legionnaire backs him off. And Boz does not really want to take that fight anyway, but the chain reactions go through, and really no way for Labyrinth to continue pursuing this, so he leaves. Time to Die making his way through the Hellborn Woods, trying to continue to screw with that Legionnaire. We'll find both him and Bubbles. Meanwhile, middle lane, it's Pingu picking up a double tap, so sorry, I missed that entirely. Go back about 10 seconds here and see what happens as he's going to port into the middle lane, it looks like. Yeah, along with Magmus. Jump from Mag will hit two people. Lava Surge, Bat Blast going to connect on both of them as both the supports die. So well played from Pingu once again. That's what I was talking about. Anyway, here they come. Swiftblade is in. He's got his spin active. Valkyrie Prism going through, but the taunt's going to actually catch him out, as well as the Kelp Field. 4-second arrow connects on the Bubbles, so they will kill Swiftblade, but down goes both Cookies and Boz on the Bubbles and Legionnaire, neither of them being particularly tanky or valuable, though. Get the courier out of there, please. Yeah, chain reaction's going to connect on the Labyrinth. That should be another kill. Yes, it will be, as the last auto attack from Wretched Hag does not miss. Meanwhile, Wall is going to block off Magnus a little bit, but he has that Lava Surge, which is a real nice ability. And RmR looking pretty good in this mid-game, and that's where they should shine. Obviously, they have a level 11 Hag, a level 11 Magmus, and level 6s on both Bubbles and Legionnaire. So if they want to take some team fights and even this game up, they should definitely do it now, because this is their opportunity to do so. Probusk probably needs to be their primary target, because he is obviously and has been over that 500 GPM mark for some time now. So Valkyrie will get a little bit out of hand if you do not address her. She is a hard carry, and she can go late. So you put 500 plus GPM in the farm of any hero, it'll be good. But Valkyrie is by no means a pushover when it comes to that. Triple type Ancient will be taken by the Hellborn team as well. And Legionnaire obviously a very good Ancients taker, but that only works if he's getting attacked by them, which he finally is. Really not spinning all that much. He still has level 1 in what is that, counterattack blade? Whirling blade? There we go. I just forget what that thing's called. So RmR looking to make this game. Early on, you could definitely see a pretty quick Dawn stomp, and that definitely is still within the realm of possibility. They do have a decent enough gold lead, but they're actually behind in experience now, as they're going to spin right on top of Wretched Hag. She will be able to blink away. Energizer gets popped, though, and there's the wall, and all of a sudden Pingu going to be in a lot of trouble trying to survive right here. Has a blink back up in a couple of seconds, and she's surprisingly tanky, so she gets stunned there, but the spin and the slashes are not going to be there. So the creep wave saving Pingu's life right there will get out. And actually they might look for a counter right here, as here comes Magmus in on top of the Swiftblade, has the Energizer active so he can get away, but the auto attacks there should be sufficient to finish him off, and indeed they are. Wretched Hag is barely going to survive, as Magmus wants to finish off his kill onto Empath, will get it, so it's 2 in the top lane as Q-Zane picks up yet another double tap. Meanwhile, bottom, it was Cookies getting picked off once again by the combination of Rhapsody and Valkyrie, who is currently level 12, but tied for the highest level in the game with both Imba Pingu and Q-Zane, who are doing everything that they possibly can to carry this Hellborn team, because they're getting more or less no support from the other 3 players on their team. Obviously, they've forgotten one at 145 GPM. He's doing more or less what he needs to, but Cookies at 120 and Boz at 200. Neither of them are having the impact that you'd like to see from 2 heroes that can do a lot, especially in the early game. And Labyrinth in that middle lane, definitely lost, but he's hovering around 300 GPM, so he should have a portal key with some very solid timing. Probably going to be up in the next couple of minutes. And that's going to solve some initiation problems for the Legion side. Actually, they're going to put a Lava Surge stun right there onto Rhapsody. The question is, will they have enough follow-up to get this kill? Magmus sitting inside of a Steam Bath right there, as he doesn't want to get more aggressive. There is sufficient support from the Legion side, and looks like everybody will just back off, and it'll be fine. So Valk going for the Thunderclaw build, pretty typical, and that's quite a good build, of course, on her, and it increases her damage output as well as her farming capability. She does have difficulty farming a lot. It's usually either that or the Searing Light as a farming mechanism for Valkyrie, but the Thunderclaw seems to have gained some popularity over the last couple of months, and they're going to catch out Rhapsody right here. This is definitely going to be a kill, as there's stuns back to back, and Yugo Bic, no way to survive that one, which is perhaps the problem with Rhapsody, as she was really the top support in the game for quite a while, and has since fallen off pretty substantially, but I would imagine that sort of thing precisely is the reason that Rap has difficulties. All she has is a single target stun, and if she gets locked down at all, she can die quite easily. She's rather squishy and has no realistic escape mechanism, especially when against multiple heroes, because of course she can only stun one. So Ugobet currently at 1-3-6, Iceland at 0-4-3. Neither sport on this Dawn team having a particularly good game. And you compare that to Forgotten One, who's 2-2-5, so he's definitely having a better time. Meanwhile, Valkyrie Prism going to come through the bottom lane, and Cookie is apparently sensing that something was off. It's going to back on out. The invis wears off, so his fears were definitely justified. You can see that. Good sixth sense. And Valkyrie picking up the Geometer's Bane, it looks like, as she gets the Firebrand, but will not go into a Dawnbringer, or a Frostburn, or a Searing Light. It's going to be the Ultimate Orb. We get some illusions up on here, which is kind of iffy in my opinion. Actually, chain reactions are there, but there's the Swift Slashes as well, bouncing around everywhere. That is level 2 Swift Slash. Meanwhile, it looks like they will be able to chase down Ugobek and get the kills. Nope, it can't really find him. The kill field is there, and Cookies is still going to die, as so does Torture, and the arrow in onto Magnus. That's going to help on top of the Staccato stuns. So 3 hero kills going the way of Dawn, as the Hellborn try to get aggressive here in the Legion Woods next to the Tier 1 tower, but Dawn bring the appropriate amount of response and instead clean up on their opponents. So Swiftblade's farm has fallen off pretty substantially. Obviously, he was 400 GPM plus, and now he's 365 even after that kill. But 4-2-3, he's definitely having a good time. He's picked up a Mighty Blade, and my expectation on that is going to be the Frostburn, as the Hellborn do have a ton of magic damage, but a first item Shrunk could head on Swiftblade seems pretty much entirely stupid. So probably won't be seeing it here. And Valkyrie does finish off her Geometer's Bane, by the way. And it's a little bit interesting, as I was saying before. I feel like it's fine. I might have gone for the Frostburn purely because the additional survivability early on is going to be very helpful for her, and then she can still split it into the Frostburn, into the Geo's Bane and the Frostwolf Skull. And Frostwolf would definitely not be a bad choice this game. You look at the Hellborn team, they have a lot of mobility and a lot of getaway potential. The Legion, meanwhile, don't have a ton of CC, to be honest. I mean, they have a number of stuns, which is good, but not all of them are necessarily reliable, notably the Kraken Charge, the Valkyrie Javelin, and the Empath Essence Link. You can't count on all of those stuns actually stunning things in every single instance. And when you take that sort of stuff away, you're looking at the Rhapsody, Staccato, and potentially the Kraken Ultimate, assuming that you can land that as well. So a fair number of skill shots here on the Legion side, and not too much guaranteed, or even close to it, which could present some problems, as the Hellborn definitely have the potential to kite the Legion heroes around and wait for their cooldowns to come back up, wait for their damage to come back, or for their teammates to help them. And they definitely have a lot of low cycle cooldowns on this Hellborn team, of course. Legionnaire Magnus, Wretched Hag, and Bubbles all can put out a lot of damage if they can get their cooldowns back in a team fight. Kelphiel going to go through in the bottom, onto the Empath. We'll see if Valkyrie can get here. Yep, his Empath will hop in right there. Kraken Charge and a release to Kraken right onto Pingu. That will be sufficient to lock him down and kill him. Torture also going to die because Probus just hits like a truck right now. With Empath inside, 150 damage. And that's on Agi Boots as well, plus the Thunderclaw procs, which is a good amount of lightning. So definitely not something that you can just ignore. By the way, Invis Rune gets popped right there, and Swiftblade will finish off Boz. So the Swift Slashes are sufficient to get a pretty easy kill. And Legionnaire going to die for the 4th time, 231 GPM, so he's improved his farm just slightly, but still not really sitting in a range that you want to be in. Sub 250 on Legionnaire at 20 minutes into the game is, like I said before, pretty much unacceptable. And Boz just having a terrible go of things right now. Imba Pingu and Q-Zane continue to be essentially the people keeping them in this game, as Bubbles has had relatively little impact. Has finished his Steam Boots. 5-second arrow in the top lane on a Magnus, and actually might be this might be enough for a kill. We'll see. Nope, Steam Bath can go through right there and push Book away. Lava Surge back into it, but all of a sudden here's the Swiftblade, and Q-Zane will get finished off right there. So a lot of invis, as this Ion Stone from Rhapsody is presumably the one that's doing all the damage. And the Swiftblade getting to move around the map without being seen, obviously very helpful. But you look at the whole warding situation for the Hellborn team, and Swiftblade can move around the map unseen whether he uses an Invis Rune or not. There's only one ward of sight here, deep in the Legion Woods, and it's not a particularly great placement, to be honest. The Hellborn, I don't think, have too much capacity to gank the Legion team in their own woods. All of the Legion side's Tier 1 towers are up in both the middle and middle and bottom lane, so they're going to be able to bring a lot of support. And, of course, you have the Valkyrie Prism to help out people globally. And the Hellborn team may or may not have enough damage at this point to realistically catch people and kill them that deep in the Legion Woods. So little bit of an interesting ward coming out there from the Forgotten One, and one that I'm not a huge fan of, to be honest. The Legion ward situation is a little bit better. Yugobic in the bottom lane. Gonna spot one out that provides vision of the Rune as well as the Kongor Pit, and some movement between the Ancients and the river. And of course there's one at the top lane. That helped them get that kill on Legionnaire, of course, as Swiftblade did not lose uphill vision, despite the fact that Lego went up the hill. So slightly aggressive and mid-tier aggression wards from the Legion side. Not too many of them though, considering this is a dual support lineup. So seems like both these heroes are perhaps focusing a little bit more on items than vision, which is fine.
Ain't nobody killing that
having
tower
those supports
but me.
make sure that they can have an impact is going to be quite important, of course. Speaking of supports having impact, Empath is inside Kraken right now, and Rhapsody kind of hanging along with him as they're trying to find a kill on somebody in this Hellborn Woods, but nobody's there.
Legion have overrun a
But
Hellborn
Probusk can take that opportunity to kill a tier 2 tower in the top lane, and that makes it just one more outer tower left for the Hellborn side. As we are just 22.5 minutes into this game. This is not exactly a heavy push lineup from the Legion team either, so their ability to continuously take out towers is a really big reason why they have that 10.5k gold lead, so props to them for recognizing that. By the way, Portal Key picked up on Legionnaire. I'll compliment the one on Magnus, and of course the blink from Wretched Hags. The catch potential from the Hellborn side is very good at this point, with 4 heroes having either movement abilities or movement items in the forms of blinks and PKs. Legion side have just the leap and the PK on Kraken, so we'll see if anybody else gets one. Swiftblade put his Frostburn aside for a second to pick up an Abyssal Skull. That's a pretty typical item and one that you always want. Top lane Kraken ultimate on Pingu, and they will kill the Wretched Hag once again, pushing him under 400 GPM. Again, that's a pretty important kill because Qzane has fallen off a little bit. Obviously, Magnus a hero that just doesn't farm all that well, nor should he, because once he has that PK, he needs to make action happen, and most of his GPM should come from hero kills and assists, not necessarily from getting creep kills. And that's probably what's happening right here, as his creep farm has fallen off considerably. The problem is that slack isn't really being picked up by anybody else. Cookie's still just absolutely terrible in terms of the overall GPM. Boz remains in similarly terrible territory, and the Forgotten One's doing fine. Not the greatest, but certainly doing fine, especially for a support in a game that they're down in. And Swiftblade going for the Firebrand here as well, so choosing to finish that over the Icebrand. That's also perfectly acceptable because he has 1600 health, even with the Ghost Marchers, so not particularly squishy. And he doesn't need the additional health from the Firebrand or the Icebrand, which means the Firebrand is going to be a more effective pickup in terms of damage output and general utility. He will finish off the Frostburn right there, so pretty big pickup right there. And Valkyrie nearly completing a Wingbow right here, 24 minutes in, and already has most of a Wingbow, an entire Geometer's Bane, and a Thunderclaw, so her damage output's going to be ridiculous right now, already at 15%, the second highest in the game, just below that Wretched Hag, as you can see based on the chart. And speaking of her, she might actually get caught out down here. Legionnaire has the PK, of course. There's the taunt, and they have a lot of support here, so Proboss is going to get destroyed as the dunk comes through, and Boz picks up the kill. 630 gold going his way, and that's going to be a pretty big swing. That'll give him a lot of advantage. Kraken going to get killed by a kill field right here. Empath is inside. While we'll go through, he'll charge away. Magnus is still going to come in, looking for the Lava Surge Stun. Only hits the one, but the ultimate for Rhapsody to save Kraken, and meanwhile, Swiftblade going to start picking people off. One dies on Magnus. They do finally kill Labyrinth. Looks like Cookies and Bubbles will get away, as Rhapsody and Swiftblade are both in some trouble. Rhapsody will be the first one to fall, as Swiftblade now trying to run away, has Ghost Marchers active, and the Empath wall will help him get out. Nice counterattack right there going on into the Torturer. So ultimately, not a great trade for the Legion side, as they still end up losing that Kraken, as well as the Rhapsody support that was there to assist him. Nonetheless, maintaining a pretty substantial golden experience lead here. And Kraken currently sitting on 2,500 gold, so my expectation is offensive Soul's Bulwark, considering we have a lot of physical damage on the Legion side between him and Valkyrie and Swiftblade. So having that item would obviously already increase their substantial damage. And you look at the Hellborn team, they're not particularly tanky. They actually went for the Ghost Marchers here on Legionnaire, which I feel like is a terrible idea. He has 1,138 health right now, plus Mystic Vestments, so for a Legionnaire, he's extremely squishy. And then you look at him compared to even some of the tiers on his own team, he's squishier than the Wretched Hag, he's squishier than the Magnus, and he's only slightly tankier than the Bubbles and the Torturer, which is not really where you want to be if you're a Legionnaire. So not only does this farm not look particularly good, but the build's also quite strange. I do like the PK first. I mean, he needs to make action happen, so it's not like getting a bunch of tank items is going to do too much for his team. He needs to jump in those fights. He's probably going to die, but at the very least he'll get something accomplished, hopefully. Magnus PK will be cancelled right there by the wall. Essence Link is there as well. Arrow going to come through, will connect, and Boz is, or sorry, Q's ain't going to die, but the rest of the team is here for the Hellborn. Empath getting inside of Probuzz, he'll have to run away. Dusk goes off to catch everybody else inside the Valkyrie Prism, as there goes Torture as well. Kraken ultimate going to lock down Pingu, and all of a sudden Bubbles in a lot of trouble, gets the Kelp Field onto the Swift Blade. And we'll see if that's sufficient. Empath, or sorry, Eruption coming in as Magnus comes back with a Byrack. A lot of damage there, but it doesn't matter. They only get one kill in the form of that Swift Blade. Actually, a nice deny on Kraken as well. It's a quad kill for Probuzz, as the dieback from Magnus means 6 deaths in that fight for the Hellborn team. They lose only the Swift Blade and the Kraken. And Dawn looking really, really good now, as they're 14k gold, 17k experience up. They're going to take a tier 2 tower in this bottom lane. That'll complete their collection of outer towers.
The Legion have overrun.
And all of a sudden, they're looking at a really, really advantageous position because, as I said before, already up 1-0 in this winners bracket finals, and therefore needing only 2 victories. Or sorry, in this grand finals. Therefore, needing only 2 victories to advance to Diamond Division with the #1 seed, and get to play Willowkeeper as opposed to Sync Esports. So taking a 2-0 series lead is going to make it real hard for RmR to come back in the series and take the first place spot. And of course, there's some pretty good money on the line as well. So lots of reasons to be very interested in winning this series. There's money this cycle. There's money potentially next cycle because it's going to be a lot easier to stay in Diamond if you don't have to face Sync in the first round. And then there's, of course, you just want to win gold, man. You just want to win games. It's good. Dawnbringer will be completed right there by Swiftblade, and the Legion side actually not looking too strong in terms of support items. Empath has that eye, but that's about it. The Rhapsody does have a portal key, though, and she's at 200 GPM, so that's certainly not bad. Middle tower is denied by Empath in the meantime, but it's definitely more substantial than what the Hellborn team has. Pushbook is finished up on Magnus. That's going to be very helpful, of course, against the Kraken, as Rechtaga has finished the Grimoire of Power, so her farm should increase, but it really hasn't, as we've seen her been sitting around the 400 GPM mark for a lot of this game, actually. Despite the Grimoire pickup, hasn't really been able to get much else. Now, that was a relatively recent Grimoire, so it's going to be seen perhaps more if this game goes, another 10 or 20 minutes. But in the meantime, Grimoire going to do some good damage for her. The question is, will it do enough damage to keep RmR in this game long enough for it to make a significant impact? And even if that does happen, she's probably just going to get out-carried. And that's the problem with that really good early start from Dawn, is they have the late game here. I mean, they've got an Empath that's going to jump inside one of 2 very strong late game carries. And having an advantage as a result of a good early to mid game, and then having a natural advantage thanks to the power of your heroes as they progress in the game, those 2 things can often prove insurmountable, especially if you look at the Hellborn team. I mean, Bubbles is just not going to be that good a hero as this game goes on. And both of the Legion supports will be useful. Empath for jumping inside of people, and Rhapsody with that R button can both be instrumental in winning team fights. And of course you have Kraken with some fantastic initiation and 2 good carries in Falcon Swifty, so we'll see where the Hellborn's late game is going to come from, but at this point it's gonna be kind of hard to find, especially once we see a Shrunken Head get picked up on Valkyrie. I just don't see her dying if she can have some magic immunity here, because, again, you look at the Hellborn side, the only one with any significant physical presence is the Legionnaire. And he doesn't have the farm to make him a significant damage dealer. He doesn't even have the farm to make him a significant tank. So, what's he going to do? And speaking of Shrunken Heads, it's completed on Valkyrie, it's also completed on Kraken. So I believe those are 10-second Shrunkens on both of those heroes. And a double damage rune on Valkyrie is going to assist with this Kongor kill. It is spotted out, I believe, by the Sword of Sight, so they probably saw them rotating over. The question is, can they do anything about this? No, they can't, because it's dead. And Rhapsody actually get over here and find the Forgotten One, who is spotted by this middle lane ward. Going to try to TP away. Will that be enough? No, Staccato's there to stop the teleport. And Time Die picks up that kill as well. Double damage being passed around by the Ion Stone on Rhapsody, so I really like that pickup too, and you can see the effectiveness. Helped them with their Kongor kill, helped them with that hero kill. Bubble's also going to die right here. Probably gets the Shell Surf on out, but the portal keys are everywhere, and Rhapsody with Staccato's finishes off the kill onto Cookies. So we're looking all of a sudden at double damage being passed around everywhere. There's Geometry's Bane illusions from Valkyrie, and a Token of Life on Probusk, as well as a substantial golden experience lead. So this is going to be mid-racks. There's no question about that. With 2 heroes down the Hellborn side, they just cannot stop this. And it's Kraken going to try to make it 3 heroes dead. Can't find it. Valkyrie Prism is activated just for the additional safety it will provide. And you look at that attack speed from Valkyrie. It's literally a continuous line of javelins. They're overlapping enough that it's like a little laser. That's pretty hilarious. So mid-racks do fall, as Torture respawns right here. By the way, buybacks have already been used on both Qzane and Inbin Pingu. We saw it used by Qzane earlier in that bottom fight. I don't remember when Pingu used his buyback, but Qzane definitely looked, it looked like he was going to get a lot of it out of his buyback, and then nobody died from the eruption except for like one hero. Eventually Kraken fell as well, but he just denied, so that was a really good play from Probusk. And the Legion side figuring, let's just win, apparently. Because they have to know they're pretty far ahead right now. They're at 13 hero kills up. The experience advantage is going to be evident in the hero levels. You see, Probusk 21, Time Guy 18, Labyrinth 17, and the only hero above any of those levels on the Hellborn team is Wretched Hag at level 19. So they have to be well aware of their substantial hero kill. And anyway, there's just Qzane gets destroyed. Shrunken Head Valkyrie going to jump in here on a Wretched Hag, and he's going to take no damage as a result of this. Bubbles gets wrecked by the auto attacks. Valkyrie's just like, I've got so much range, I can do whatever I want. You can't do anything about it. Wraps the ultimate with the portal key, saving Valkyrie. Everybody dying on the Hellborn side as both Hag and Torture fall. There goes the Magmus, and Mercy and GG's called right here, which is completely fair because this game is over. So it will be game one, or game one of the actually played games, going the way of Dawn, and that means they will take a 2-0 series lead in this, and ride my rocket very much on the back foot now, because not only were you down 0-1 coming in off of the winner's bracket / loser's bracket advantage, but Probusk and Time to Die and the rest of Dawn just looked like they are so much better than you in that game, to be honest. I mean, I think the draft was better from Dawn, the play was clearly better from Dawn, and RmR in a position where they need to win 3 straight games, and if they want to have that #1 seed coming out of Diamond. And based on the results of that game, I don't see a really high likelihood of that happening, to be honest. It seems like it's going to be a relatively quick Dawn victory. I mean, RmR is still a very good team. I mean, they have to be to have gotten this far, but it looks like Dawn might be in another league right here, as RmR. They've got some work to do, so we'll see if they can get it done as we move on to Game 3. And so we're done with this one, and we'll be right back with the second game of this best-of-5 series.